Steve Wilks out as defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers. What's crossing your mind?
Well, I gotta let Dibs speak first.
What? Let me speak.
Are you two really gonna have this contest?
Yes, Steiny has my back. I called it when they made him come down from the. They're telling me on YouTube. The people are speaking. I'll take the flowers on Valentine's Day.
Look, whatever. You're both.
No. Guru had it first.
It doesn't matter who had it first.
What I've been doing I'm going to be honest, Mark.
Shout out Twitter.
My whole career.
I don't care who got it first.
And I really don't.
You both got it.
My whole career, ever since I started 12 years before Daryl was even a caller, I've been stealing from him. So thank you, Goo. I want to thank you, Goo,
Ernie
for allowing
said,
me.
Give me the flower, but go ahead.
Oh, because Ernie Chavez is now the arbiter of what's right.
I don't even want the flowers for firing. I just knew something was off.
You don't want the flowers, but you're taking the flowers.
Everybody, if you've been watching, you knew something was off.
Okay, there we go. What did you call it earlier?
Breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
They're breadcrumbs. They started in Minnesota.
Is he a scapegoat? Because a lot of people are calling him.
No, he's a bad fit. That doesn't make him a bad coach. Nick Bosa, short time ago, quote, okay, let me get it. I think he does a great job with the back end.
Oh, my God. Tell it.
Anybody have any more questions? He came in to learn a new system on the fly, and it didn't work. And he's a DB's guy, more so than a D-line guy, and the 49ers are a D-line group. If you want to criticize Kyle, it's fair. Why'd you make this hire? It was a bad fit. It didn't work. Steve Wilks is a really accomplished coach.
We've been 100 places, though. Some were saying that ain't a good thing.
I think that it's fair to think that he could have done the right job, but when we look at why that high-priced defensive line didn't get home that much, that's his job, and it seems like it'd be an easy one, and it's obviously not. The two sides were never on the same page, and I don't mean Kyle and Steve. I mean the front and the back. They were never on the same page all year, and I think Kyle learned a lesson here, and that is you don't go outside the family. And what I mean by the family is this system. They tried to hire somebody outside the system, and they won't do that again. And that's why I personally think you can bucket all your names.
No Vrabel.
No Vrabel.
Belichick.
No Belichick.
Carroll.
No Carroll.
Richard Sherman.
Nope.
Richard Sherman.
He loves the Niners.
Nope.
Richard Sherman.
No.
Staley. Yeah, thank you, Evan.
Brandon Staley.
Oh, wow. Leader in the clubhouse.
No.
It's Belichick. Bring him in. Somebody who can advise Shanahan during the week. Somebody who can somebody who's won a Super Bowl. Somebody who can tell Kyle and let him know how to win a bowl.
Let him know how to win a bowl. Signed Tom Brady.
Signed Bill Belichick, who has more than any other coach in NFL history.
Tom Brady.
Any NFL coach has more than Bill? None.
Tom Brady.
Whatever. Tom Brady, nice little quarterback.
Yeah.
Tom Brady only wins one without Bill.
Bill's been coaching his butt off the last 2-3 years, hasn't he?
Well, because Bill's quarterback turned out to not be the guy.
Been looking pretty good.
The quarterback that Kyle was so covetous of.
Anyway, they're not doing something like that. I don't think those guys would do it, and I don't.
Yeah.
Go get somebody who works this system. Brandon Staley is
because we want Brandon Staley whispering in his ear, "Go for it on fourth down, Kyle.
Exactly.
Do it.
No,
Kyle.
Brandon Staley is a.
I wouldn't kick the field goal here.
Brandon Staley is a Vic Fangio protege. That's the tree. That's the tree. That's the last time the 49er defense looked right, like great. I mean, actually, maybe not. I mean, Saleh and D'Amico.
Saleh and D'Amico were great.
But that's where it started. But those were Fangio guys. Those were assistants underneath. Like, go back to the tree. Go back to somebody who knows exactly.
There's got to be somebody else in the tree other than Brandon Staley.
Of course, there is. I'm not saying.
Then let's find somebody else in the tree.
Well, Rex Ryan's out there, Willard.
But don't be upset at Brandon Staley, the coordinator, because Brandon Staley, the head coach, was terrible. # Norv Turner. There are plenty of people who can coordinate who can't be a head coach.
Vic Fangio himself.
There you go. There you go.
My question is, if you're going to go through defensive, if a coach is going to have a coaching tree like Kyle Shanahan, which we all acknowledge is probably a good thing, well, then aren't you going to go through coordinators every year or two?
Sure.
So is that an inherent challenge you have to overcome?
No, just stay on the tree. The tree is huge. These guys all, just whatever system, you got to find someone that knows this system. Like, that was stunning this year. Don't you think? Like, look back on it now. I know they had a great first half in the Super Bowl. Fine. They've got to.
But before that, they could have. The Detroit game could have justified any move.
How did this talent look like that? I don't care about any stats, but they were ranked for whatever. How did this talent look like that?
And what happened to the gang tackling? We had a caller bring that up. I said that did kind of dissipate.
I mean, the way that the Detroit Lions.
That first one, that could have got anybody.
Well, for me, the biggest issue is the way you covered against Detroit and the way you played. You played so soft against the Lions, and then, I put out my IG video at halftime about them being more aggressive and blitzing, and then they finally blitzed, and they played more press man, and then against Kansas City, late in the game, you played so soft, and you let Kelsey run, you stop bracketing him. I think that from a schematic standpoint, you need to get somebody in here who's going to be a little bit more aggressive when you've got this much talent on defense.
Well, Brandon Staley has no problem with aggression. That's for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
On offense.
And he knows Bosa, so that's good too. Right? Good friends with
wasn't
Joey.
Playing. He said we weren't prepared for everything.
You know what?
And then your new one.
Yeah. He does well with the back end.
Wow.
Not that it matters. Bad year for Bosa.
Sure.
Real bad year for Bosa.
Sure.
Start to finish, his comments in between, his play overall.
I ain't mad at
He needs a bounce back year next year.
I disagree with bad year just because he didn't have the sacks. He was, I think, number 2 in the league in pressures. And, pressures are almost as important as sacks. Sacks obviously lead to negative plays immediately, but pressures lead to either bad passes or the occasional interception. I don't think it's fair to say that he had a bad year. Now, was he DPOY?
Coach killer.
No. Yeah.
Boy.
Sure, coach
Well,
killer.
no, but so do you guys mean that in two different ways? Like, I feel like, Dibs, you just answered
He did
that
not
as-
have a bad year.
You mean
he had a slow start.
You mean with his play? I don't think I didn't take that to mean
Right.
what.
Well, he didn't have as good a year as he did last year.
Okay, but are you talking about like specifically his play or the whole picture? To go
Yeah, the whole picture.
To go from holdout,
right, slow start,
and just kind of commentary throughout. Like, I would argue that for a lot of them, like. I don't think you pick out any individual here. This is almost like the game itself.
Man.
I'm not going to point at one person and go, you messed this up. It just wasn't a marriage. It didn't blend. They didn't work together. And
he was, like you said, not
in
from the tree.
In the end, that's
He was
Kyle's
outside.
fault.
Yeah,
Kyle tried to go outside the tree, and it didn't work. So
I feel
back to the tree.
I feel like they had to fire Wilks. Because it feels like something was going on under the surface. Mm-hmm. And what do you think about this? He might be gone had they won that game.
What's that?
That's what I said.
He might be gone had they won the game.
They played a good game to me. I'm sorry.
Did y'all see Kyle's face when he called the timeout in overtime?
No.
That was actually the moment where I was convinced of what you had said.
Yeah, well, I got it from Guru.
Weeks earlier. Yes, you did.
But specifically.
Everything I get from Guru.
When he had to call a timeout in overtime, and now here's Tony Romo to 200 million people going, Kyle doesn't like what Steve Wilks is doing right now, and he's stopping the game so that he can take this over. You cannot go after 20 football games. You're now in the Super Bowl in overtime against Patrick Mahomes and have the head coach and the defensive coordinator looking at each other going, what the hell are you doing right now? That's a no from me, dog.
Yeah.
You're out. And no one's fault. This marriage didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
And so you get an annulment. It's been, about a year, so you can get annulled. No kids. Certainly no Lombardis. So you can go ahead and I don't know if he got fired or if he was relieved of duty.
That's
I already asked that, but
that's the same thing.
No, because we have
if it's a mutual parting of ways.
the idiot box is saying he got fired at the bottom.
Well, and it's all a relative.
He got fired.
Well, what was his contract status?
Do
we know that?
It doesn't matter.
It does matter because
I've been let go when a contract was up, and I felt fired.
Have you been relieved of duties?
Well, I think it's the same thing.
Well, it's all very relative. There's being fired. There's a mutual parting of ways. There's being relieved of duties. There's
also PR, which is
of course.
let's use the words we want to use. But here's what happened:
Right.
Kyle Shanahan decided that Steve Wilks was not going to be his DC anymore.
Right.
Has to be fired.
But, depends on what his contract was and depends on what his severance is and all the rest of it.
Why does it matter what his contract
Because
is?
if he had 2 more years left on his deal, then yes, he got fired.
If he had no more years on his deal, he got
relieved of duties.
Yeah.
If his contract runs until the start of the league year, which is, I believe, March 11th or March 12th, and you let him go now, then he got relieved of duties.
But they're still telling you that we don't want your services.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the same. Yeah. The same idea is in place, which is you don't have to go, but you can't stay here.
I didn't fault Kyle for the decision to take the ball, but did you hear the sound we played?
Oh, yeah.
Or did you guys play it yet?
Which
one?
With the reaction from Kelsey and Mahomes.
Oh, yes.
Overjoyed.
What are you I know you got to do the legal, but after that, I mean, that is incredible.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KJMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube. Powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Here is the sound from pregame, and I'm sorry, from this is right before overtime, the coin toss.
You win the coin toss. That's what you get. You get the opportunity to have the advantage, and they handed it right over to us.
Yeah, well,
not trying to harp on the guy, but it was a huge, like when they said we want to receive, and the ref looked at Fred and he said, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
You sure you want to receive? And he said, I want to receive. I want the ball.
I was
just like, I jumped out of my seat and said, hey, here we go.
Which one you want to kick it?
All right, this is the one I meant from NFL.
We get a first down, we knock a lot of time off this clock. We can play the game right here.
Your best play that you have in your book right now. Because you don't want to give Mahomes the ball back.
All right. Hey, man, we got no sacks,
obviously. Man. Hold on. This one's the one.
Go with the toss?
Yeah. Which way you want to kick it? They call it. They call it, right? Yeah, they call it coin flip. It's their coin flip, right?
We want the ball, Fred. San Francisco, you are still the visitors. What is your call?
Tails again.
He called tails again. It is tails.
We'll receive.
You want the ball? Which way do you want to kick?
We're going to kick that way.
San Francisco will receive first in overtime. Good luck, gentlemen.
They want it. They want the ball. They wanted it. Hey, they want it. They wanted it, baby. We want them to have the ball. They want it, they can have it.
Hey, even if we score a touchdown, they still get the ball. I didn't know that.
We won the toss, we're going to kick off too. Go, we want it.
6 times. They want it. They want it. They want it.
And Kyle Juszczyk being like, even if we score, we don't win, right? I didn't know that.
Oh boy.
God.
But Kyle, to his defense, did mention he knew his defense was gassed from that 11-play drive.
That's part of it.
I want to take him off the hook right there.
Well,
Dibs.
but I also, what about this? Would you argue if both teams have run the scenarios in their heads and the Chiefs say, because I think you can argue this either way, if the Chiefs say, if we get the ball second, we're going for 2. If it goes touchdown, we're going for 2. If the 49ers were to take the ball second and it goes touchdown, and they go, but we're not comfortable going for 2. I can see that argument either way, and to me, that's definitive. You want the ball first if you're not going to go for 2.
And that's why
if
Kyle
you're comfortable going for 2, then you want the ball second, I think.
And they weren't going for 2. That's why Kyle
we
was
don't know
talking
that.
about the third
Kyle was talking
possession.
about the third possession, regardless of whether or not they would go for 2. He hasn't said, well, we wouldn't go for 2, therefore we would trade touchdowns and we want the third. He never said that. He was thinking about only the third possession. He wasn't thinking about, well, if I go for 2 or they go for 2. We've never heard him speak to that.
Right. Well, I'm assuming by bringing up the third possession, you're going to kick the extra point.
If you get the second possession.
Yes, sir.
Well, we don't know that. And we don't know.
Because it could be a trade of field goals, too.
Exactly. Or it could be a trade of punts. He was not thinking in terms of, I want the ball second because I want to really go for it. And this is where Mark and I have had a debate, not only for 2 days or 3 days now, but for a long time about Kyle and being too conservative. And he doesn't use his timeouts at the end of the first half. And he does it a certain way. And like it or hate it, you're going to have to deal with it for 5 more years.
To me, the thing that the way Andy Reid talked about it was the way I feel about it, is when Andy Reid said, if you defer there, you kind of know what you have to do when you get the ball. And I do like that. That's that was the single biggest thought to me is you kick the ball to the Niners. They're either not going to score, they're going to get 3, or they're going to get 7. But at least you know what you have to do to tie or win the game.
I also think it's a poker match. You'd love to know what the other side is thinking, because here's one thing that I keep thinking, and yeah, I think there's been some movement of thought on this topic since it all happened. When it was happening in the moment, I was like, no brainer. You have to have the ball. You have to take the ball because of the third possession. But if the Chiefs are going to take the idea of a third possession away by saying we're going to go for 2, well, obviously that. So now you're playing poker.
But you didn't know, right?
You didn't know. You're playing poker. Does he have pocket aces, or does he have a 3 and a 2? I don't know what they're going to do, but here's what I promise you. I promise you, and this is what I'd love everybody who's ripping Kyle to admit. Okay, Niners defer. Chiefs score a touchdown. Niners get the ball. Niners score a touchdown. Kick the extra point. Patrick goes and kicks a 52-yard field goal. Chiefs win the game. Kyle is torched, and I mean torched, at the idea that you gave Patrick Mahomes the ball only needing a field goal. He's torched.
Would the torch be because of that, or would the torch be
because he didn't
for
go
not
for
going
2?
for 2?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Yeah,
and I don't know if he would have gone for 2.
He wouldn't have. And it all speaks to what I'm talking about in terms of my criticism of Kyle Shanahan. And yes, he's a great play caller, and 30 of the teams, if he was on the market, would want him to be their head coach. All that's true. This does not mean that Kyle Shanahan should be fired, but this is an area where I think Kyle Shanahan needs to improve, and he needs to evolve, and he needs to become more aggressive. And he did it again at the end of the first half, where he let Andy run the clock all the way down and control the clock. You're up 10-0. You could have forced him to kick the 3 or get the 7 and get the ball back to have a chance to score again, but he didn't, and you ended up losing the game again.
What would that position look like? What would that? I was asking Steiny. So, hey, Kyle, Ayuk's only got 3 targets. You know, maybe we might want to feed him the ball. And I ain't shortchanging Kyle, but I do have questions as to why Kittle. And if you're telling me this was just like the 2019 Super Bowl, I understood that they needed him in for blocking. But how do you take 2 of so-called your horses? How are they not involved? And if you guys are going to tell me, oh, Guru, they got a good defense, well, that ain't good enough. Dial something up to where you get your guys loose. How many times did, Michael Irvins of the world, or do you got to pull a Travis Kelce and bump your coach and knock him down for you then to get 8 targets? No, I'm serious. Like, what's going on there, Willard, to where you can just walk away from that? And Kyle might say, Guru, we didn't have time, but Ayuk was emotional with his locker, and I'm like, he didn't even get a chance. And I don't know why.
I just don't personally look at football that way, other than like the running back. Obviously, you can turn around and hand the ball to the running back. I don't know. It's not like basketball where you're like, ISO KD, give him the ball. That's like you drop back with multiple options on every play, and then multiple things are thrown at you on the fly in the process in terms of what the defense is doing. So who are they covering? Who are they doubling? Are they blitzing? Are they in your face?
2 of your guys, Will.
I know, but you can't snap the ball and be like, okay, on this play we're going to Kittle. I mean, that's how you play horrible quarterback. Is by deciding pre-snap. Like say, that's how I play Madden.
Well, I guess
that's why my son crushes my butt.
But I would ask you, I would follow up
because I can tell you right now before the snap who I'm throwing to, and he knows.
How have the Chiefs perfected getting Kelce the ball? You know what I mean? I know it's not that. Hey, we're throwing to Willard, but you know what I'm saying? Maybe that's the next evolution of Kyle.
Think how long they went without getting the ball to Kelce. They went 2.5 quarters.
But then they did.
Right. But I don't think that was because they were like, we got to get Kelce involved. I think that
Dre Greenlaw being out.
Yeah, it's a big part of it. It's a big part of it, and it was what was there on those plays. Fred Warner blew a coverage on a huge play in the second half where Mahomes was under pressure and Kelce was by himself over the middle of the field. Ended up gaining whatever that was, 40 yards.
Yeah, Fred was in the trail position.
Yeah,
couldn't get back to him.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just I never look at a box score and go, wow, they decided not to throw it to him today. It's like, I don't know what they decided. That's how it played out.
Right. And if I'm Brandon Ayuk, it's fine to think that. But if you look at Green Bay, 3 catches against Green Bay, 3 against Detroit, 3 in the Super Bowl. You had 9 catches and 1 touchdown in the postseason. And if I'm Ayuk, I'm thinking that's not enough.
Yeah, and his brother says, you need to get out of here because they're not using you right. Not that that's what Brandon's saying, Will, but it's almost like, man, can you guys find a way to get me going?
The Ayuk thing is so interesting.
You got to give him a Steiny yesterday.
Yeah, what do you think? $25 million, you do it?
No, of course not.
Steiny?
Of course not.
Because I'm starting to think you don't use him
I'm
like that.
thinking if we're here saying, Purdy played well enough for the 49ers to win, well, then it is on Kittle and Ayuk, to me. If you're telling me Brock Purdy played well enough to win and he played the kind of game that he's played in the regular season, well, then why didn't those guys have the kind of games they normally have? Purdy's got to have some response. I'm saying it can't be all one or all the other. So it's a combination of either when they were open, Purdy didn't see him, or they didn't see him enough. Or
the thought process is, there is some merit to what you're saying, because the thought process is, according to what Steve Spagnuolo told Albert Breer, was that we came out in zone and Brock was kicking our asses.
They were going down the field.
So we had to go man and put our DBs on an island with those guys and hope that they were able to take them out. They did. I'm not good.
Yeah, and they did because the pass rush was able to make Brock uncomfortable.
That too. And I'm very glad.
Best friend.
To me, the most important thing Kyle Shanahan has said so far in these 3 days is that he agrees that they need to retool that offensive line.
Yeah.
There's your key to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you think they'll go after LeBron James?
The 49ers? You want him to be the defensive coordinator?
He could be a good right guard.
Yeah, Bron.
He played football.
He did.
In high school.
Just the timing of that article. They're hot. No harm, no foul. You know what it is? And then LeBron's a part of it.
Ramona worked with Woj on that article.
Momo.
She was going to join us in 10 minutes or 20 minutes. And then Steve Wilks got fired.
Okay. I got you.
We had to pivot.
Yeah, no doubt.
Ramona will join us tomorrow.
I do think that they are priming the pump for next year. I think that this is a trial balloon that they floated now to see what people think. And
think about it. We were talking about this the other
and
room.
I think Mark's right.
Well, you can.
It's a trial balloon.
I know.
LeBron is a warrior.
The bag is on the shoulder, so you guys can ponder this on your way to your cars.
So Clay would have to be out.
Why?
Right.
Why does someone want that news out today? And who is that person?
That's coming up.
Let's play with that.
All right. I'll be listening on 95.7, The Game.